Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. Abandon your brain and experience the thrill of combat. Boom! The deafening explosion rang in Chen Xiao's ears. He struggled to open his eyes, his mind a complete mess. What happened? Looking around, all that could be seen were ruins and rubble of the city, with countless dilapidated houses piled up like mountains, resembling a scene from the apocalypse. What exactly happened? As soon as the words were spoken, Chen Xiao immediately sensed that something was wrong. When did my voice become so deep? The next second, memories flooded back, and Chen Xiao immediately understood the cause and effect, his lips twitching involuntarily. Have I been transported to the world of One Punch Man and become the so-called strongest man on earth, King? Looking at this scene, no way. Chen Xiao immediately had a bad feeling. Not only had he transmigrated into King, but he also found himself in ruins the moment he opened his eyes. It seemed like there was only one such scene. He heard the crisp sound of tiles being stepped on behind him, and he turned around stiffly, his face immediately turning green. That's really true. Behind Chen Xiao, a 3-meter tall, muscular, purple humanoid creature stood on the ruins, its crimson pupils scanning the surrounding devastation with a hint of satisfaction. The humanoid creature had 2 long tentacles growing from the top of its head, making it look remarkably like Piccolo Damu at first glance. Dragon-level monster, Vaccine Man. Chen Xiao was immediately terrified, breaking out in a cold sweat. His heart pounded, and a dull thud erupted within him, like the roar of an engine starting up. This is due to King's unique physical structure. His heartbeat is extremely loud, especially when he is excited, and can be clearly heard from tens or even hundreds of meters away. Sensing this peculiar sound, the vaccine expert finally looked down and saw Chen Xiao frozen in place, his fist clenching tightly. There are still humans alive. Before Chen Xiao could react, the vaccine vendor began his self-introduction, bombarding him with a long string of words. Listen, humans. I am the Vaccine Man, the embodiment of the Earth's will. You are a bunch of maggots polluting the Earth's environment. I, on behalf of the Earth, judge you. I will exterminate all humanity. And let this world be reborn. As he spoke, the Vaccine Man inexplicably became more and more excited, and a dazzling ball of light began to gather in front of him, its target being Chen Xiao, who was standing in place. Layers of water-like energy flowed across the surface of the sphere of light, illuminating the apocalyptic ruins with dazzling brilliance, where destructive power converged. Chen Xiao didn't not want to run, but he was now unable to move. The pressure from the dragon-level monster, coupled with his inner terror, made his legs feel as heavy as lead, and he couldn't take a step at all. Where's Saitama? Isn't he coming yet? Bald-headed Cape Hero, come to the rescue. Just as his life was hanging by a thread, a cold system notification suddenly rang in Chen Xiao's ears. Ding! System loaded successfully. Congratulations, host, you have received a newbie gift pack. The new player gift pack allows you to randomly draw one ability, its strength is completely random. Want to draw immediately? Advertisement. Hurry up and pump it. Chen Xiao screamed wildly in his heart, afraid of being even a second too slow. Although I don't know what abilities I can draw upon, I have no choice but to try anything at this point. Although he was panicking, Chen Xiao remained calm, his dignified face and composed expression stimulating the fragile hearts of the vaccine recipients. You're not afraid of me? You're just a mere human being, don't be so arrogant. I'll grind you to dust and then expel all humans from the earth as germs. The vaccine-carrying human increased its energy output again, and the number of light spheres in front of it not only increased to dozens, but their volume was also much larger than the original light spheres. In those few seconds of delay, the newbie gift pack had already been drawn. Ding! New player gift pack has been activated. Congratulations, host, you have acquired the 8 gates formation, Death Gate, physique. 8 gates, Gate of Death, Constitution, you will gain Might Guy's power in the Gate of Death state, and this power will be preserved as a permanent state without consuming life force. For a moment, he was surprised, then an extremely intense heat surged from his body, instantly flowing to his limbs and bones, constantly transforming this tall but extremely weak body. The vaccine-carrying human also sensed the change in the human's aura. A hint of seriousness flashed in his crimson eyes, and an unprecedented sense of oppression swept over his mind. The human in front of me seems to have become stronger. So what? I am the embodiment of the Earth's will. How could I possibly be afraid of a human being? Forcibly suppressing his unease, the vaccine man suddenly waved his hand, and dozens of orbs of light behind him shot out at an extremely fast speed. The moment it made contact with the ground, the sphere of light exploded violently, and the destructive energy enveloped an area of hundreds of meters in front of it, turning it into scorched earth. Looking down at the scorched earth and the vanished human, the vaccine man scoffed disdainfully. Humph, mere lowly humans, daring to contend with the will of Earth. Just then, its 2 antennae on its head twitched, as if it had sensed something. Its eyes widened, and it suddenly turned its head. Behind the person who received the vaccine, Chen Xiao stood perfectly unharmed, staring blankly at his own body. In the 0.1 seconds following the explosion of the light sphere, Chen Xiao instinctively tried to dodge, and the speed he unleashed shocked even himself. Is this the speed of a dead door? That's interesting. It's at least 10 times the speed of sound, right? Upon discovering that the human before him was still alive, the vaccine man felt an unprecedented surge of anger welling up inside him, and veins bulged across his purple skin. Without the slightest hesitation, he activated the second stage. His body, which originally had a human form, instantly expanded and transformed into a colossal monster nearly 100 meters long. Crimson pupils gleamed with murderous intent amidst the smoke and dust, while sharp claws flashed with a chilling light, adding to the terror. You maggots of Earth, just go and die. Facing the vaccine recipient who was on the verge of collapse, Chen Xiao slowly lowered his center of gravity and assumed a fist-pumping stance. He felt the explosive power within his body, and the continuous flow of vital energy, and took a deep breath. Now that we've roughly tested the speed, it's time to test the strength. Once the vaccine man enters his berserk state, he is at least at the level of a dragon, which serves as a constant standard for his power. A surge of violent blood and energy coursed through his body like a tidal wave, every muscle poised to unleash its power. Chen Xiao leaped into the air, shooting straight out like a cannonball. The ground beneath his feet instantly cracked, with spider-web-like vein-like cracks spreading across the surface. His eyes narrowed, and facing the gaping maw reeking of a foul stench, he swung his fist at the roaring vaccine man. Accompanied by a piercing sonic boom, there were no dazzling special effects, nor any cool move names, just a single punch. Boom! 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 An invisible shockwave emanated from the 2 people and spread wildly outwards, dispersing the surrounding smoke and debris and creating an open space. The vaccine recipient's crimson pupils widened, their eyes filled with disbelief as he stared at his shattered body. How is this possible? This punch shattered the vaccine man's defenses, its fierce and violent power pulverized flesh and blood, leaving a huge bloody hole in its massive, swollen body. A sharp pain surged through his mind, but the vaccine recipient's anger was finally suppressed by reason, and his crimson pupils returned to their clear state. Something's wrong. It looks like we can't win. However, by the time that thought crossed my mind, it was too late. Chen Xiao teleported in front of the vaccine man, whose fist, which was incredibly small compared to his enormous body, rapidly magnified in his vision. Chapter 2. Hero Association. Inside the control room, a large group of tense-looking staff members were busy at their workstations, with red alarms flashing on the large screen in front of them. Report. The energy level of the dragon-level disaster vaccine man is still increasing. It seems the next attack will target the entire M-City. Has no hero come to provide support yet? Where are the nearby S-rank heroes? A large number of A-class and B-class heroes arrived at the scene to provide support a few minutes ago, but none of them are a match for Vaccine Man. S-class heroes from the surrounding area are also on their way to the disaster site. The staff were nervously reporting the situation, while Sitch, the manager, with his somewhat comical large nose, was already drenched in sweat. If this monstrous creature with terrifying destructive power is allowed to continue its rampage, the entire M-City might be destroyed, and other cities would also be greatly affected. Most importantly, if this disaster is not handled properly, the Hero Association's influence and credibility will decline significantly in society, with incalculable consequences. Just as Sitch was at a loss, another piece of news arrived, instantly bringing joy to the tense staff, who excitedly exclaimed. New information! The satellite, despite being interfered with by energy interference, has successfully transmitted blurry images. Mr. King has rushed to the battlefield and is engaged in combat with the Vaccine Man. Upon hearing this, Sitch's expression hardened, and a great weight was lifted from his heart. Has King, the strongest man on Earth, already gone to resolve this disaster? Then we're all set. Although no one has ever seen King make a move, there are countless rumors about him. Sitch has almost complete trust in this mysterious and powerful being. If it were King, he might actually be able to save the entire M-City. You're going to die. A strong sense of crisis instantly spread throughout his body, and the vaccine recipient acted decisively, mobilizing all the energy within him. A ball of energy, imbued with destructive power, rapidly gathered in his mouth and was launched towards Chen Xiao, who was charging towards him. This is an energy ball that the vaccine recipient condensed under life-or-death circumstances. Its power has reached its peak. If it were to explode here, the surrounding area would be completely annihilated. Chen Xiao's eyes narrowed. Even if he took the attack head-on, his physique would ensure that he wouldn't suffer much damage, but everything around him would be destroyed. With his powerful senses rapidly expanding, Chen Xiao was astonished to discover that there were thousands of life forms within a radius of several kilometers around him. These survivors were merely buried under the rubble, they hadn't died. But if the energy sphere exploded here, they were destined to be reduced to ashes. Since that's the case, Chen Xiao abandoned his attack on the Vaccine Man and appeared beneath the energy sphere in a flash. Evening Elephant. His fists blurred into afterimages, rapidly swinging through the air. The air in front of him was compressed into a visible form by terrifying force, and powerful air cannons bombarded forward. In just a few seconds, Chen Xiao threw over 100 punches, creating a near vacuum zone in the area, where all the air was compressed and blasted towards the energy ball. Propelled by the powerful impact, the energy sphere, about to explode, was propelled into the sky at an extremely high speed. Boom 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 boom. In an instant, the world changed color, golden light shone across the sky, and violent energy waves dispersed all the clouds within tens of kilometers. The vaccine recipient, whose body visibly shriveled up after releasing all its energy, stared in disbelief at this sight. How is this possible? You're definitely not human. Who are you? Humans couldn't possibly possess such power. You're just a bunch of environmental pests. How could you possibly threaten me, the embodiment of the Earth's will? Chen Xiao did not answer the Vaccine Man's question. He flashed back to the Vaccine Man, and at this moment, the scarlet blood aura emanated from his body and condensed on the surface of his fist. A sound like a balloon bursting rang out, and the Vaccine Man's head exploded. His massive body collapsed limply to the ground with a loud thud. The green blood splattered as a light, continuous stream of blood. Chen Xiao felt the terrifying power still coursing through his body and couldn't help but sigh. I'm so lucky. I got such an amazing reward right at the start of the game, and my combat power skyrocketed to an absurd level. Based on the performance of those who had just received the vaccine, Chen Xiao roughly estimated that his strength was at least at the peak of the Dragon Realm, but he didn't know whether it was the strong peak of the Dragon Realm or the weak peak of the Dragon Realm. After all, it can distort space with a single punch, easily destroy vaccine recipients, and has virtually no side effects. Even within the One Punch Man universe, aside from the hooks, such expressiveness would be considered incredibly impressive. Ding! Congratulations, host, on your first victory against a dragon-level monster. You have gained 1 random passive skill and 500 attribute points. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have acquired the passive skill Rapid Self-Healing. Rapid Self-Healing, you will possess unparalleled regeneration speed. Limb regeneration will be a piece of cake for you. Unless your skull is blown apart, causing you to lose consciousness, you can regenerate yourself. Regeneration will consume stamina. That's an impressive skill. Self-healing ability has always been an effective skill for improving combat power. It can be said to guarantee one's minimum strength and survivability, making it one of the most desired passive abilities. Etc. Chen Xiao suddenly had a bold idea. With my Death Gate state physique and super fast self-healing, wouldn't I be able to use Knight armor indefinitely? Knight Kai's power was too great. Even if Chen Xiao were to unleash it with his current physique, he would break his own leg bone the moment it hit his opponent. If you combine that with self-healing abilities, instantly recovering after one kick and then delivering another, wouldn't that be insidious? Just then, a voice suddenly rang out in the empty ruins. Hey? It's all done. That sound. Could it be? Chen Xiao turned his head, and the first thing that caught his eye was a bald head that was reflecting light. A yellowish-brown bodysuit, a white cape, and red gloves, along with his signature blank expression. The truly invincible being in the One Punch Man world, the bald demon king Saitama. Looking at the headless corpse of Vaccine Man lying on the ground, Saitama scratched his bald head helplessly. Forget it, since someone else has already taken care of it, let's go back. Saitama muttered a few words of helplessness, then turned around and prepared to leap away from the scene. Chen Xiao, covered in the blood of vaccine recipients, stepped forward and patted Saitama on the shoulder. Long time no see, Saitama. How have you been? Saitama? Not a buddy? Chapter 3. Looking at Chen Xiao, who had a fierce face, Saitama pondered for a moment and realized that he did not have any such person in his memory. Chen Xiao's face was now stained with green blood, and since Saitama had no recollection of saving King, he was completely unrecognizable. After confirming that he truly did not recognize this person, Saitama tentatively asked. Who are you? Saitama didn't want to waste any more time here. If he was any slower, he might miss the supermarket's sale. Chen Xiao plans to establish a relationship with the bald demon king. After all, this guy is the strongest being in the world, so establishing a friendly relationship first is definitely the right thing to do. As for how to establish it, Chen Xiao had already thought of the fastest way. Hearing the doubt in Saitama's tone, Chen Xiao immediately put on a pained expression. I didn't expect you wouldn't recognize me. We once faced a wicked and strange person together. I can't believe you don't remember me. That's a real shame. I was thinking of buying some premium beef and having hot pot with you to celebrate when I heard you became a hero out of pure interest. Premium beef. Instantly catching the key phrase, Saitama's eyes sharpened. After a brief moment of thought, he warmly grasped Chen Xiao's hand. I remember now, you're that. Hurry up and think of something, you blockhead. Otherwise, this premium beef will fly away. Staring at the face of the person in front of him, Saitama finally recalled a face he had seen on television. You must be King. I've heard so much about you. When are you coming over for hot pot? We haven't seen each other in ages. At this moment, Saitama's intelligence reached its peak. For premium beef, King will say no one is his friend. Seeing Saitama's eyes light up, Chen Xiao couldn't help but find it amusing. An existence capable of destroying planets with its bare hands, and even annihilating galaxies with a mere flick of its wrist after becoming slightly stronger, has its greatest weakness: high-grade beef. The two walked arm in arm for a while, then Saitama revealed that he lived in the uninhabited area of Z City, and waved his hand dismissively. You absolutely have to come. The supermarket rush is almost over. I'm going to grab some cabbage first, and I'll be waiting for you tonight. After saying that, Saitama hurriedly jumped up, the ground beneath his feet exploded, and he turned into a streak of light and disappeared into the horizon. Both sides felt they had come out on top. Chen Xiao believed that he had only used a few boxes of premium beef to quickly gain the friendship of the bald demon king Saitama. Saitama was overjoyed. He had only intended to go out and carry out some justice, but he unexpectedly met a kind person who gave him high-quality beef as soon as they met. Watching Saitama walk away, Chen Xiao broke out in a cold sweat, and the pounding of his heart echoed throughout the arena like an engine. Others might not be able to sense it, but Chen Xiao could perceive it clearly. When facing Saitama, he felt incredibly small, like a speck of dust looking up at a mountain that stretched straight to the heavens and the earth. Chen Xiao was absolutely certain that even if he used Night Strike, it probably wouldn't be enough to withstand a single slap from the bald demon king. There's still a long way to go. Although it's hard to compare to Saitama, as long as I have the system, continuously getting stronger isn't too difficult. Oh right, besides the super fast self-healing passive skill, it seems like you also got attribute points as a reward? Chen Xiao silently recited the command, and a dark blue data panel instantly appeared before his eyes. His mind quickly scanned the panel, and soon he opened the character attribute panel. Name: Chen Xiao. Gender: male. Ability: Emperor Engine, Rapid Self-Healing. Strength: 10,000. Speed: 10,000. Physical Fitness: 10,000. Defense: 8,000. Spirit: 3,000. Note: the standard for reaching dragon level is that all attributes reach 1,000. Seeing his current somewhat outrageous attributes, Chen Xiao couldn't help but swallow. The standard for entering the dragon level is 1,000 attribute points. In areas other than mental power, one can basically crush ordinary dragon level beings. As demonstrated in his recent battle against the vaccine addict, Chen Xiao completely dominated on a numerical level. Ding ding ding. The sudden ringing of the phone pulled Chen Xiao back to reality. He took his phone out of his pocket, and the caller's name was displayed on the screen. Hero Association SIC. As soon as the call connected, Sicha's anxious voice rang out from the other end. Mr. King, we have detected that the energy fluctuations of the dragon level threat, Vaccine Man, have disappeared. Did you defeat Vaccine Man? At the Hero Association headquarters, Sich appeared extremely nervous, staring at the large screen in front of him that had lost its display of Vaccine Man's energy, a bead of cold sweat trickling down his forehead. If King defeated Vaccine Man, then everything will be fine. But if King didn't defeat him, and instead Vaccine Man escaped, causing the energy fluctuations to disappear, then there's a big problem. This means that a powerful monster with the ability to destroy a city has disappeared from surveillance and could retaliate at any time. Thump. 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 After the question was asked, the signature powerful engine of the car came from the other end of the phone, its strong heartbeat resonating in the listener's soul. Chen Xiao's deep voice rang out, his tone calm, not at all like someone who had just experienced a fierce battle. The vaccine issue has been resolved, please dispatch staff immediately to complete the cleanup. After saying that, Chen Xiao hung up the phone. Hearing that it was indeed King who defeated Vaccine Man, Sich finally felt a huge weight lifted from his shoulders. His tense body instantly lost its strength, and he almost collapsed into the chair, letting out a long sigh. This disaster is arguably one of the biggest disasters the Hero Association has faced since its founding. If it is not handled properly, the Hero Association's influence in society will decline significantly. No wonder he's known as the strongest man on Earth. Just as Sich was inwardly praising King's reliability, he suddenly seemed to remember something, and his expression changed instantly. He jumped up from his chair and nervously instructed the staff in front of him. Quickly call Tornado of Terror. The dragon-level disaster vaccine has been dealt with by Mr. King, she doesn't need to go anymore. It's important to know that this disaster was originally entrusted to Tornado for suppression, but now that arrogant being with a notoriously bad temper has already arrived halfway, only to be intercepted by King. Sick couldn't even imagine what kind of sparks would fly between the strongest man on Earth and the Association's #1 fighter. Chapter 4. City M. After informing the Hero Association, Chen Xiao prepared to leave. He quickly recalled his home address and prepared to use his extraordinary speed to go straight home. It was at this moment that Chen Xiao's perception of the strong made him stop and look up at the sky with a slight frown. He could sense that a powerful figure, no less strong than himself, had arrived. Sure enough, a petite figure descended from the sky, enveloped in a faint green light. She had a lily-like figure, long, curly green hair, large, bright green eyes, and a flowing black dress. These distinct characteristics combined to create a fearsome presence, the second-ranked S-class Tornado of Terror. That's right. Chen Xiao remembered that in the original story, they originally planned to send Tatsumaki to deal with the dragon-level disaster, Vaccine Man, but Saitama killed him with a single punch too quickly, which is why the battle was over before Tatsumaki even arrived at the scene. Because he was chatting with Saitama, he was a little delayed, which allowed Tatsumaki to successfully reach the battlefield. A spoiled, childlike voice rang out. Tornado looked around, somewhat annoyed, and said, "Hey? Are those Hero Association guys just sitting around doing nothing? They said there was a dragon-level threat here, but there's nothing here." With her powerful telekinetic energy sweeping below, Tatsumaki immediately spotted Chen Xiao standing amidst the ruins, and the Vaccine Man corpse beside him, still emanating the aura of a dragon-level monster. "King, what's this guy doing here?" Upon seeing King suddenly appear on the battlefield, along with the remaining corpses of dragon-level monsters, Tatsumaki immediately understood what was happening and was instantly enraged. A vein bulged on her smooth forehead as she used telekinesis to fly to the ground, her green curly hair flying like snakes. She roared. "Hey! Don't you know I'm supposed to kill this dragon-level monster? What's with this stealing it halfway through thing? Want to fight, Scarface?" Faced with the tornado's unreasonable demands, Chen Xiao had little desire to engage in a fight and calmly waved his hand. "Why start a fight here? Saving the wounded is the priority now. If you want to fight, I'll oblige later." Perfect timing. Chen Xiao also wanted to have a fight with this trembling tornado. Now that Chen Xiao possesses immense power, he desperately needs an equally formidable opponent to determine his true strength. Saitama is definitely not an option. Although he won't kill humans, the gap in strength is too large, making a comparison pointless. Conversely, Tornado, an officially designated peak-level dragon-type fighter, is his best test subject. The two of them would naturally have to fight, but definitely not now. Chen Xiao has other things to do and doesn't have time to mess around with this legal little girl. Upon hearing King's sermon, Tornado's mind automatically translated it into a challenge, which immediately made her laugh in anger, and a violent psychic storm swirled around her. "Scarface, I don't care if you're the strongest man on Earth or not, remember this. After this is over, I'm going to beat you so badly you can't even take care of yourself." Tornado was furious. This was the first time she had ever met someone so arrogant, and this person even dared to issue her a challenge, completely disregarding her. After saying this, Tornado let out a heavy snort, her psychic powers erupted instantly, and she transformed into a green streak of light, disappearing into the horizon. After seeing off this small but temperamental problem child, Chen Xiao didn't linger there any longer, disappearing from the spot in a flash. Minutes later, a large number of official rescue personnel and staff from the Hero Association arrived at the scene and began to provide medical assistance to the wounded. Meanwhile, news of King, the strongest man on Earth, defeating Vaccine Man single-handedly and saving the people from disaster spread throughout major cities, and the media rushed to report it. In an instant, King's already highly respected image among the people rose to an even higher level. The Hero Association was undoubtedly behind this, constantly promoting King's great achievements and formidable strength through various media outlets. After all, having such a hero who has established a lofty image among the masses greatly enhances the Hero Association's influence in society. As public opinion grew, the rumors surrounding King became increasingly outrageous. Have you heard? When a dragon-level threat struck, Mr. King killed the monster that destroyed the city with just a single glare. What kind of weak, fake news are you listening to? The moment Mr. King arrived, that monster was already begging for mercy on its knees, and then it was shattered by Mr. King's Emperor engine. Hey? Didn't I hear that Mr. King took that monster to the moon, killed it, and also averted a meteorite crisis? The rumors intensified, eventually solidifying into yet another legend about King, the strongest man on Earth. People were not too surprised by King's performance this time. After all, King's numerous astonishing achievements before this had already taken everyone by surprise. He can instantly kill any weirdo. The 3 scars on his face were left from a battle with the gods. The large craters on the moon were all created when he used the moon as a sandbag for practice. Countless. However, Chen Xiao, the protagonist of many discussions, has already returned to the home of his memories. Looking around the room filled with game discs and various new gaming devices, he smiled with relief. Not bad. Although Chen Xiao isn't particularly interested in dating games, he does enjoy playing various fighting and action games. The instant his fingers touched the buttons on the controller, an innate muscle memory seemed to instantly flood Chen Xiao's mind. Chen Xiao knew that the original owner's gaming talent, engraved in his soul, had come into play. After playing a few rounds, Chen Xiao put down the controller and took a relaxing bath. After all, there was still some blood from vaccine recipients on my body. Although it wasn't a big deal, the sticky feeling was still a bit unpleasant. Lying in the bathtub, staring at the steaming ceiling, Chen Xiao soaked in the hot water, her gaze somewhat vacant. Having suddenly transmigrated to this world, I still feel a little out of place. Fortunately, he had the system as a cheat code, which promptly used its powerful strength to dispel his confusion and fear. After tidying himself up, Chen Xiao began his next move. Target: the no man's land of Z City. Capture the bald demon king. Chapter 5. Hurry! Hurry! Faster! Looking at the long queue at the checkout counter, a bald man in a yellow bodysuit stared wide-eyed, helplessly joining the very end of the line. In his hands, he was also carrying a bundle of cabbages and enoki mushrooms on a limited-time discount. Saitama is currently very worried that if he goes grocery shopping and gets back late, King might not come. The thought that he might miss out on delicious, high-quality beef, simply because the queue was too long, made Saitama feel utterly hopeless. People around were staring at the bald, perverted man in the yellow bodysuit with strange looks. A child tried to say something, but was glared at by his mother and pulled away. Saitama was already used to these strange looks, and his blank expression returned to normal. Fine, since I'm not cutting in line anyway, I'll just stay in line obediently. After tossing the change onto the checkout counter, Saitama clutched the cabbage and enoki mushrooms he had bought, and vanished from the supermarket in an instant. People on the street only saw a blur before their eyes, followed by a gust of wind, and all they could see was a rapidly running afterimage flashing across the street. With relentless charge, Saitama broke through the crowded streets in less than 2 minutes, leaping over the barbed wire fence that enclosed the no-man's land with a single bound. After entering the no-man's land, Saitama increased its speed several times over again, completely letting loose. The road suddenly shattered, and a strange creature with a bullfrog's head emerged from the hole, flicking its viscous tongue, its muscular body bulging with veins. I'm a bullfrog man. Because I love eating bullfrogs so much and am obsessed with fitness, I've turned into a muscular bullfrog. I want even more muscular muscles. Before he could even finish speaking, the bullfrog man's head exploded into a spray of blood. Saitama flicked the green blood off his red gloves, as if he'd swatted a fly on the roadside, completely unconcerned. When he arrived at his doorstep, he saw a tall, blonde figure already waiting there, carrying 3 glittering boxes. Saitama looked closely and saw that the pink texture was indistinguishable from the snow-white fat, presenting a beautiful snowflake shape, with just the right thickness. Premium beef. He instantly became enthusiastic, welcoming Chen Xiao into his home with a beaming smile. Upon entering, Chen Xiao subconsciously looked around the house. There was little dust, the environment was clean and tidy, the furniture was complete, the shelves next to it were piled with comic books, and there was a cushion in front of the TV for lying down. It's hard to imagine that such a small room could house the world's most powerful person. A few minutes later, as the hot pot began to boil, Saitama was the first to add cabbage and enoki mushrooms for seasoning. When the time was right, Chen Xiao looked at the high-grade beef laid out on the plate and suddenly seemed to have thought of something. In the world of One Punch Man, there exists spiritual power, which can be materialized as telekinesis to control other objects. Although his other stats far surpassed his mental strength, this particular stat still met the standards for a dragon-level being, and should be able to generate enough telekinetic power. With this in mind, Chen Xiao tried to concentrate his mental energy and apply it to the high-grade beef in front of him. With a faint green light flashing, under his mental control, a whole plate of premium beef slowly floated into the air and then jumped into the boiling hot pot. Seeing this, even Saitama couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. That's pretty cool, King. So you're a superpowered person after all. Faced with Saitama's somewhat envious question, Chen Xiao touched his nose. I'd say that's a fair assessment, but I mainly use this ability to move things. Wow, that's a really useful ability. Does that mean you can drink water while lying in bed? Saitama's unexpected remark immediately made Chen Xiao lose his composure. In this relaxed atmosphere, about 8 seconds passed, and the bright red beef gradually changed color as it rolled. When the color of ripeness had covered 80% of the beef, Saitama and Chen Xiao opened their eyes at the same time, and their chopsticks moved in response. In the blink of an eye, with chopsticks in both hands, they swiftly scooped all the premium beef from the hot pot into their own bowls. Chen Xiao thought he had used his fastest speed, but he still only managed to grab 5 slices of beef. The rest of the beef ended up in Saitama's bowl. No wonder he's called the Bald Demon King, even his speed in grabbing beef is off the charts. On the other side, Saitama was also somewhat surprised by Chen Xiao's speed. Although he didn't try to snatch it seriously, Chen Xiao's speed in managing to grab 5 slices of beef from him was already quite commendable. After a hot pot meal, the two gradually became very close and could talk about anything. Having eaten and drunk his fill, Chen Xiao stared at Saitama, who was shaving his teeth, and suddenly spoke. By the way, Saitama, haven't you ever thought about becoming a hero? Upon hearing this, Saitama paused, clearly not understanding Chen Xiao's meaning. Hey? Aren't I already a hero? And a hero who did it out of pure interest. That's why you're so poor. The reason why Saitama was so poor in the early stages is that he only focused on eliminating monsters and was a hero for fun, but he never became a proper hero. This has resulted in Saitama not having a proper job or source of income for the past few years. If it weren't for the fact that rent and utilities are waived in the uninhabited areas of Z City, he probably would have been sleeping on the streets long ago. Chen Xiao gave Saitama a general explanation of the Hero Association's structure and the hierarchical division of its members. Saitama picked up a slice of beef and put it in his mouth. So, King, you're an S-class hero, right? How much do those top-tier S-class heroes earn in a month? Chen Xiao roughly recalled, the basic salary alone was around 5 million yen a month. Take away the young master. The beef he had just chewed was spat out the next second. Saitama's eyes widened. He immediately devoured all the beef in the bowl and changed into his yellow bodysuit. What else is there to say? Let's go, the Hero Association is getting a new S-class hero today. Chapter 6. A few million yen a month, that's a fortune that Saitama, who was usually destitute, would never have dared to dream of. If I can get this money, I can eat high-end beef to my heart's content and go on a shopping spree during supermarket discount sales. For premium beef, we'll go all out. Donning his battle suit, Saitama leaped into the air and flew towards the Hero Association. Seeing Saitama's anxious expression, Chen Xiao shook his head helplessly and used his telekinesis to take off into the air. Just then, his phone rang again. Chen Xiao answered it and saw that it was the Hero Association calling again. Has some strange disaster struck again? That's not right. At this point in time, disasters below the dragon level would basically not target me, and there were no dragon level disasters at this point in the original story. With some doubt, Chen Xiao answered the phone. The moment the call connected, Sicha's tense voice immediately came from the other end, accompanied by what sounded like something falling to the ground in the background. Mr. King, are you available right now? I urgently need your assistance at the Hero Association headquarters. I have some important business to discuss. I see. Chen Xiao gave a brief reply and hung up the phone. He probably already knew what it was about. Perfect, this way we can both resolve Saitama's joining the Hero Association and settle Tatsumaki's agreement. Thinking of this, Chen Xiao immediately caught up with Saitama, who was still leaping around in front of him. Saitama, you've gone the wrong way. If you want to apply to be a high-ranking hero, you should go to the Hero Association headquarters in City A. I'll take you there. Saitama scratched his head, barely managing to make out King's words amidst the biting wind. Hesitating. Seeing Chen Xiao flying freely in the sky, Saitama, who was still jumping around on the ground, suddenly felt a little envious. Damn it, I really want to learn to fly, but unfortunately humans can't fly. Hey! I've got it! Saitama's face, which had previously been simple in style, suddenly became angular and sharp, and he adopted a serious posture. At this moment, all the muscles in his body burst forth with a power as vast as the starry sea. Seriously stepping on air. Saitama leaped into the air again, then frantically stomped through the void with his legs at a frequency almost invisible to the naked eye, creating a violent hurricane below. With its overwhelming strength and leg-pushing speed that was invisible to the naked eye, the air itself was literally crushed by its force. With his legs engulfed in flames from rapid friction, Saitama moved forward by stepping on the air, his speed no less than that of Chen Xiao, who was flying at full speed in the sky. Chen Xiao looked down and saw this scene. Seriously, this is really going too far. However, Chen Xiao felt relieved when he thought about how the other party was a bald, ruthless demon king who was completely unpredictable. Forget it, you can't reason with someone who's involved in this. Although Chen Xiao could do that, he definitely couldn't maintain the state of flying on air for as long as Saitama. He would probably have to land and recharge after about 10 seconds. Halfway through the flight, Chen Xiao suddenly thought of a question. The Hero Association's rules are rather rigid, even with Saitama, the so-called strongest man on Earth, presenting himself. Saitama's test scores still come into play. The physical fitness test goes without saying, but the problem lies in the cultural test, where Saitama didn't even get half the points. Chen Xiao searched through his memory and found the Hero Association's exam questions from a while ago. He discovered that they were all very simple questions that any normal person could answer. He could get at least 40 out of 50 points. However, given Saitama's simplified thought process due to his immense strength, his poor performance is understandable. To give Saitama a heads up, Chen Xiao decided to ask similar questions himself beforehand. Saitama, to pass the Hero Association's assessment, you also need to take a cultural exam. I'll ask you a few simple questions, try to answer them. Saitama maintained his super fast leg kicks while giving an OK sign. Chen Xiao thought for a moment, then posed the first question. Question 1. If a strange person appears nearby, and the crowd has not yet been completely evacuated, posing a potential danger, what would you do? Saitama, his eyes glazed over, gave his unforgettable answer without hesitation. Why not just punch that monster to pieces? Chen Xiao. I knew it. This guy is so strong that his thought process has become incredibly simple. After all, nothing is easier than solving a problem with a single punch. But with a sliver of hope, Chen Xiao asked the second question. The second question, what is the most important factor in becoming a hero? Saitama, the strength to kill a monster with a single punch. The third question, what were your initial motivations and dreams for becoming a hero? Why do you want to become a hero? What do you want to do after becoming a hero? Saitama, it's out of interest, I guess. I became a hero to get a higher salary. And after becoming a hero? I fight monsters, of course. Chen Xiao. It's so hard to even get half the points. He covered his face helplessly. Saitama had almost degenerated into a single-celled organism. Whenever something happened, he only thought about solving it as quickly as possible. If he could use one punch, that would be best. If he couldn't, then he would talk about something else. Thinking of this, Chen Xiao decided to give this guy some advice. Saitama, sometimes we need to change our perspective. If the monster is stronger than you are now, and you are the weaker one, what would you do in these situations? Change the angle, perhaps? Saitama suddenly felt a little dazed, as if he were thinking of himself back then, when he still had hair but was very weak. Although he was very weak at that time and was beaten up every day, he always maintained a passion for fighting and a desire to become stronger. I see. We need to look at the issue from the perspective of the weaker party. Looking back now, these questions seem to have different answers. Saitama's blank stare flickered slightly, and he murmured to himself. If the test consists of these kinds of questions, I think I roughly know what to write. There's no need to think about so many standard answers. Just remember your original intentions and sincerity, and you'll be able to deliver the best result. Seeing that Saitama finally seemed to have gained some wisdom, Chen Xiao felt a little relieved. That way, they probably won't write any outrageous answers. Hero Association. Numerous items were enveloped in green light, hovering and spinning in mid-air. The scene was utterly chaotic. The staff watched this scene in horror. Sich, the leader, was already drenched in cold sweat, but still had no choice but to speak. Tornado, Mr. King has agreed to come to headquarters. Calm down and put the things down, okay? At this moment, green curly hair flew everywhere, a tornado floated in the air, and her gaze looked down at the crowd below with a displeased expression. Chapter 7. Tornado was very unhappy at that moment. I was already annoyed because my mission was robbed halfway through, and then that despicable scarred man dared to challenge me to a duel. For so many years, Tornado has consistently held the second position in the S-class rankings, and this is the first time someone has dared to so arrogantly provoke her. None of that matters. The most important thing is that despicable king didn't prioritize his duel with me. Instead, he went off to do other things. Back home, Tornado grew increasingly angry, so she stormed straight to the Hero Association headquarters, demanding that King come over immediately for a fight. At first, Sich had some reservations, feeling that King must have other things to do and shouldn't be bothered so casually. Tornado got even angrier after hearing this, and used her telekinesis to grab several things and smash them around, leaving Sitch speechless. She could only call King. Please. Mr. King, please come quickly. We simply can't control this problem child anymore. Just then, the doors to the Hero Association headquarters opened, and two figures walked in. Upon seeing that signature blonde hair and 3 hideous scars, the furious Tornado immediately spotted her target. I can't believe you actually dared to come, King. Come on. Let's fight outside. Upon hearing this, Sitch was immediately terrified. No way, this is the Hero Association's strongest fighter, Earth's strongest Esper, versus the strongest man on Earth, King. If this fight breaks out, the city might be destroyed. Seeing that Tornado couldn't persuade him, Sitch had no choice but to turn his gaze to Chen Xiao, leaning closer and whispering. Mr. King, why don't you two talk it over? It's not good for you to start fighting like this. Chen Xiao glanced at him, then waved his hand, his tone calm. No problem, if she wants to fight, I'm ready anytime. Why are you pulling this stunt too? Sick finally couldn't hold back anymore. This damn Hero Association has S-class heroes who are all incredibly overpowered, it's impossible to control them. Seeing the increasingly tense atmosphere between King and Tornado, Sitch didn't dare to get involved and instead focused his gaze on the person who walked into the headquarters with Chen Xiao. The first thing that catches the eye is his shiny bald head, his simple expression like that of an ordinary passerby, and his yellow bodysuit. He's the perfect image of a lowly hero. Although he looked like a weakling no matter how you looked at him, considering he was brought by Mr. King, Sitch still asked cautiously. Mr. King, who is this? Chen Xiao, who was at loggerheads with Tornado, turned around and introduced Saitama to Ziki. This is a powerful individual I brought. He's here to participate in the hero recruitment exam, and I can guarantee that his strength is absolutely no less than mine. When he uttered those last words, everyone present stared wide-eyed, and Sitch almost dropped his jaw in shock. Is someone who's acknowledged by the strongest man on earth to be no less powerful than him really that strong? If King's words are true, then our Hero Association will gain an equally formidable trump card. A surge of excitement welled up within him, and Sitch quickly and cheerfully invited Saitama into the lounge, beginning to arrange the exam questions. Although the hero recruitment exam hasn't started this month, whether it's recruiting Saitama, who could be incredibly powerful, or giving King some face, it's worth taking a test that's unique to each individual. Saitama was initially a bit confused, but when the Hero Association delivered free drinks and fruit, his eyes immediately brightened. Seeing Saitama frantically gulping down fruit, adhering to the principle of if you don't eat it, you're a fool, Chen Xiao shifted his attention away from Saitama and instead turned his gaze to Tatsumaki. Just as he was about to speak, a system notification sounded in his ear. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have triggered an option. Option 1, showcase the prowess of the strongest man on earth, battle Tatsumaki, the second-ranked S-class warrior, and demonstrate to the world the true value of the title of strongest man on earth, shattering Tatsumaki's arrogant and conceited mindset and making her realize that there are always stronger people out there. Option 1 reward, random advanced ninjutsu x1, automatic taijutsu training card x2. Option 2, choose to temporarily avoid confrontation. Before you can completely overwhelm the second-ranked S-class Tornado, choose to endure until you grow strong enough to easily defeat her. Then choose to fight back, write a powerful script like that of a Dragon King, learn to resolutely endure, and enjoy a life of twisted humor. Option 2 reward, 1000 attribute points. Hey? So you can get rewards by triggering certain options? Chen Xiao then realized that he knew far too little about this cheat system. Or perhaps, this thing is so incredibly simple that you have to figure it out yourself. He quickly glanced at the two options and chose option 1 without hesitation. Just kidding. The atmosphere has already reached this point, and if you continue to hold back, what's the difference between you and a green-haired turtle? Furthermore, both options offer unique rewards. While the rewards for option 1 are more uncertain, the potential gains can be substantial if you manage to draw a good item. On the other hand, option 2, although it provides very straightforward attribute points that can directly enhance one's combat power, does not align with Chen Xiao's intentions. This isn't an option I like, so I'll eliminate it immediately. Ding! Congratulations, host, for choosing option 1. Seeing Chen Xiao suddenly stand still, Tornado felt ignored and clenched her fists in anger. Her psychic powers surged forth like a storm. Scarface, you're pretty arrogant. Tornado almost lost her temper and started a fight, but thankfully she held back. She pointed outside, her tone icy. Get out here. Let's go to the outskirts and have a good practice session. I'll show you what happens when you provoke someone. Faced with such an arrogant and conceited Tornado, Chen Xiao crossed his arms, his dignified face remaining expressionless. Come on, I also want to see the true power of the strongest superpowered individual. Don't disappoint me. The thought of fighting an opponent of the same level as Tornado made Chen Xiao's heart beat faster. Thump. 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 Thump 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 thump. The sound of a heartbeat, like an engine, reverberated throughout the venue, each beat like a hammer blow to the soul, making it hard to breathe. But tornadoes don't care about that. A few seconds later, 2 green streaks of light shot out of the Hero Association's gate and sped off towards the deserted suburbs. Chapter 8. In the biting wind, Tornado lowered her head and looked at Chen Xiao, who was also using telekinesis to fly through the air, her eyes filled with undisguised shock. This guy can use telekinesis. Is he a superhuman too? The straightforward Tornado made no attempt to mince words and asked directly. Hey! King, how come you can use telekinesis too? Are you a superhuman? Chen Xiao glanced at her, his tone calm and steady, his voice revealing no emotional fluctuation. It's just that they have stronger mental strength. Tornado was taken aback, not expecting this answer, and couldn't help but let out a cold snort. Humph! You charlatan! No matter how much you're hiding, it's useless. I'm going to beat you to a pulp today. The two arrived in the wilderness and confirmed that the area within 100 kilometers was deserted before landing. It's worth mentioning that in the One Punch Man universe, all the continents have merged together, becoming a single, enormous plateau. Humans have built 26 cities, each comparable in size to a country, on this vast land, and named them from A to Z. Beyond those 26 cities lies almost endless wilderness and harsh environment. Even if they fight with all their might, it won't interfere with human society, which provides Chen Xiao and Tornado with an excellent fighting environment. On the desolate wilderness, the two stood facing each other. Neither side chose to make the first move. Chen Xiao maintained his arrogant, king-like demeanor, naturally waiting for the other side to make the first move before retaliating. As for Tornado, although her tone was full of disdain for Chen Xiao, she was still somewhat wary of this strongest man on earth with various legendary achievements. Both sides were waiting for the other to make a move, and just as they were in a standoff, Chen Xiao heard the system notification sound again. Ding! Reward has been issued in advance. Congratulations, host! You have obtained 1 random advanced ninjutsu and 2 automatic taijutsu training cards. Congratulations, host! You have obtained the complete 8 gates formation. In an instant, all the secrets of the 8 gates formation flashed into Chen Xiao's mind, and he mastered them completely, as if they had become muscle memory, ready to be used at any time. Wow, that's pretty humane, they even sent out the reward early. However, drawing the 8 gates formation still surprised Chen Xiao somewhat. You mean, given that my normal state is already the Death Gate constitution, I've regained the 8 gates formation, and can open gates 1 through 7 again, and even stack the death gate once more? The enhancement effect of the 8 gates technique is actually determined by the user's physical condition. The stronger the user's physical attributes, the greater the physical enhancement they will receive after using the 8 gates formation. If opening the 7th gate grants a 3-fold boost, and the user's constitution is 3, then 3x3 equals 9. However, if the user's physical condition is 100, then it would be 100 times 3 equals 300, and the difference is considerable. One only gained an extra 6 points to constitution, while the other gained an extra 200 points. They are completely incomparable. Now that I have acquired such great power, it's time to break the deadlock. Chen Xiao took a step forward, and Tornado's eyes instantly sharpened, a cold smile curling at the corner of her lips. The scarred man finally decided to move. Hey! Get up! A violent surge of telekinetic energy erupted from his body at that moment, piercing through the air and surrounding Chen Xiao completely, attempting to lift him up. With a thought, Chen Xiao's acupoints were quickly filled with surging blood and qi, white steam erupted from his body, and his skin turned slightly red. The 8 gates formation, the 7th gate of shock, open. His already formidable physical strength surged even more rapidly at this moment, and because of his strong physique, Chen Xiao did not feel much burden even after opening 7 gates. Faced with the psychic forces surrounding him like a tornado, Chen Xiao simply threw a punch. The terrifying power created sonic booms, shattering the psychic forces surrounding him. The feel is amazing, like shattering a piece of glass as thin as a cicada's wing, yet leaving no visible trace. Upon realizing that her telekinesis couldn't control the man before her, Tatsumaki was quite surprised. This was the first time she had encountered an enemy she couldn't control. Immediately afterwards, this unruly superpowered queen felt even more excited, and her vast, ocean-like spiritual power erupted in full force. Not bad. Let's try an even bigger one then. At that moment, his spiritual power transformed into an invisible tsunami, sweeping towards Chen Xiao in an overwhelming manner. The ground beneath his feet shattered in an instant, and the surface of the land within a radius of several kilometers was lifted up, turning into a sky full of rubble that surrounded Chen Xiao. A sphere made of rubble enveloped Chen Xiao, its surface glowing with a green light emanating from it. Tornado manipulated the sphere, hurling it high into the sky. Hundreds of meters in the air, veins bulged on her forehead as she continuously compressed the condensed rock sphere. The rock sphere, several kilometers in diameter and resembling a meteorite, was being compressed continuously, making a cracking sound. Chen Xiao, who was in the very center of the sphere, was subjected to an unimaginable crushing force. So they have no ability to resist? It seems their so-called achievements were just boasting. The tornado released a continuous stream of telekinetic energy, compressing a rock sphere several kilometers in diameter to a size of only tens of meters, achieving a terrifying level of density. And in the next instant, a voice clearly reached her ears amidst the noise. Not bad telekinesis, but unfortunately it's still too weak. What? Tornado's pupils suddenly contracted to pinpoints, and before she could even increase the output of her telekinetic power, a deafening explosion came from above. The sphere she compressed exploded into a shower of rubble at that moment, and Chen Xiao's figure, emanating white steam, teleported to her in an instant at a speed almost invisible to the naked eye. There wasn't a single wound on his body, only a terrifying aura that made people feel suffocated, and the roar of engines could be heard in the ears. Thump 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 thump. Tornado's expression was somewhat grim as she listened to the roar of the engine, which seemed to make the heavens and earth tremble. Is this the Emperor engine? She knew that not only was she serious, but King in front of her had also entered battle mode. Since external forces can't crush you, there's no need to use them, we can just control your body directly. Thinking of this, Tornado's mind stirred, and her powerful telekinetic energy locked onto Chen Xiao, instantly causing his body to emit a pale green glow. Die! Tornado flipped her wrist, her face flushed from the force, and her green curly hair flew wildly in a raging psychic storm. The telekinetic force acting on Chen Xiao grew stronger and stronger. At this moment, even the hardest metal on earth would be twisted into a pretzel the moment it came into contact with the telekinetic force. Even if a dragon-level monster came, as long as it wasn't a near-dragon peak monster, it would be instantly twisted into mincemeat. However, facing this incredibly powerful telekinetic strangulation attack, Chen Xiao remained completely still, as if the so-called strangulation attack did not exist at all. He tilted his head, and a hint of doubt finally appeared on his dignified and calm face. That's it. Chapter 9. These two words were like a bolt from the blue, striking Tornado's heart directly. Her eyes instantly turned fierce, and she gritted her teeth, saying, "I didn't expect you to be so tough. I'll twist you into a pretzel today." Veins bulged on her smooth forehead again as Tornado unleashed all her telekinetic power without reservation, focusing all her energy on Chen Xiao. The ground beneath their feet began to crack layer by layer, and the surface within a radius of dozens of miles trembled continuously under the terrifying psychic pressure of the tornado, almost collapsing several meters downwards. The surrounding air became stagnant, as if suppressed by dozens of times gravity, becoming thick and difficult to breathe. Thick clouds rolled in at that moment, and the tornado's terrifying psychic power even affected the changes in the celestial phenomena, as if a storm was brewing. Finally, thanks to Tornado's relentless efforts, Chen Xiao's body moved. He raised his hand, scratched his nose, and then put it back down. If there was anything different from his usual movements, it was that he raised his hand a little slower. Chen Xiao almost completely ignored Tornado's telekinetic restraints. The seventh gate of the 8 gates formation already provides a powerful boost to the physical body, not to mention that Chen Xiao's basic stats are already at the peak of the dragon realm. When Chen Xiao was reading the original manga, he felt that Tatsumaki's telekinetic abilities were terrifyingly strong. The ability to forcibly lift half a continent, and even to crumple a powerful dragon-level serpent into a ball and toss it into the sky, demonstrates remarkable strength. But after he personally experienced the tornado's strongest telekinetic power, he suddenly realized that it wasn't all that impressive. Chen Xiao took a step forward, enduring the full-force telekinetic suppression from the tornado, and continued forward slowly but steadily. Step by step, the soft footsteps struck the tornado's heart like a heavy hammer. Tornado tried to stop Chen Xiao's actions, but Chen Xiao, with his astonishing physical strength, forcefully broke through the suppression of telekinesis, and even seemed to be unaffected. His slow pace wasn't due to telekinetic suppression, but simply because he liked to show off. Tornado was seeing stars, and her vision was beginning to be blurred with faint black edges, clearly indicating that she had pushed her telekinetic powers to their limit. She swore that she had used the strongest telekinetic power she had ever possessed, yet she still couldn't budge the man before her. Tornado, who has always been very arrogant, felt that her worldview had been shattered. This is the strongest man on earth, those legends weren't just rumors, he's truly powerful. But I'm ranked 2nd in S-class. This king is only ranked 7th in S-class. How could I possibly lose to this guy? Despite reaching her limit, and even struggling to stand, Tornado gritted her teeth and persevered. Her intense pride and self-respect wouldn't allow her to collapse like that. She raised her hand, releasing a portion of her telekinetic energy. This energy condensed and compressed in the air, transforming into spears capable of piercing the human spirit. With a wave of his hand, hundreds upon hundreds of telekinetic spears rushed towards Chen Xiao, who was standing still, determined to turn him into a swarm of bees. Faced with an attack powerful enough to instantly kill most dragon-level enemies, Chen Xiao's expression remained unchanged, he simply slapped the ground forward as if swatting a mosquito. Boom! 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 With just one slap, the area in front of him became almost a vacuum, and the surrounding air formed a powerful air cannon that crushed hundreds and thousands of telekinetic spears. Just then, a telekinetic spear, far more powerful than the others, pierced through the void, rushing straight towards them with a chilling aura. Just as it was about to reach Chen Xiao's face, a large hand firmly grabbed it and then crushed it. Seeing that her prized telekinetic abilities couldn't harm the man before her in the slightest, Tatsumaki's eyes showed confusion for the first time. Can I really win? Of course I can. Resentment and anger filled Tornado's mind. She forcibly suppressed her mental energy and unleashed an even more powerful force. The immense telekinetic power caused the surrounding air to distort and solidify, the heavens and earth to tremble, and spider-web-like cracks to spread across the ground beneath their feet, almost covering an area of 100 miles. The distant forest was affected by the battle between the two. Countless trees were crushed into wood chips the moment they came into contact with the telekinetic energy, completely powerless to resist. The two drew closer, Chen Xiao's hands in his pockets, his blonde hair billowing wildly with the surge of his psychic power, his imposing face adorned with 3 scars drawing ever closer. Finally, the two were less than a meter apart. Tornado's telekinetic shield separated them, and they looked at each other through the green barrier. A faint white steam emanated from Chen Xiao, his eyes remaining calm, while the earth-shattering roar of the Emperor's engine still echoed throughout the world. Tornado's face was flushed red, veins bulging on her forehead, and her large, bright green eyes were filled with bloodshot veins. The contrast between the two side states was striking. Chen Xiao raised his fist, unleashing a power powerful enough to distort space, which slammed directly into the telekinetic shield on Tornado's body. The energy wave swept outwards from the two people's location, and the clouds within a radius of tens of kilometers were directly dispersed by the violent shock wave, revealing a clear sky without a single cloud. The tornado was almost uncontrollably thrown backward, crashing heavily to the ground like a cannonball. The ground within hundreds of meters around it shattered in the blink of an eye, forming a huge crater beneath it. She desperately changed direction, which prevented her from falling into the ground and leaving a trench that stretched for thousands of meters on the surface. The seemingly indestructible telekinetic shield on his body was now covered with countless cracks and could shatter at any moment. This was only the result of Chen Xiao using 80% of his strength. He needed to gradually increase his strength, not only to adapt to the sudden surge in his power, but also because he was afraid of killing Tornado with a full-force attack. Lying amidst the billowing dust, Tornado shakily rose to her feet, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, her eyes filled with disbelief. I'm really going to lose. I'm really going to be defeated by this guy. In a daze, Tornado felt herself shrink and lying in a pile of ruins. Before her, a burly figure, whose features were obscured, slowly squatted down and touched her green curly hair. Go for it, Tornado. Strive to become the strongest, grow to the point where no one will look down on you anymore. Chapter 10. Feeling the touch on her head, Tornado froze, as if some kind of crystalline liquid was sliding down her cheek. Looking at that figure so deeply etched in her memory, Tornado instinctively reached out, wanting to grab that indistinct silhouette. However, the figure merely chuckled softly, gave a thumbs up, then turned and left, leaving only one sentence floating in the air. Don't let anyone look down on you. You must believe in yourself, you are the best, and you can protect your sister. Don't go. Tornado scrambled to her feet from the ruins, desperately running towards the receding figure, panting heavily as she charged forward. That was the person she had been waiting for 20 years, the person she had been looking for 20 years, and the person she had been searching for 20 years. S-rank first, demolition. Don't go. Tornado murmured, her unsteady steps gradually becoming steady, and finally she used telekinesis to take flight, reaching her maximum speed. Even so, she still couldn't reach that figure. Don't go. A heart-wrenching scream echoed through the white space, and cracks appeared on the surface of the space before exploding like a shattered mirror, leaving only emptiness. In reality, Tornado suddenly opened her eyes, her vision turning blood red, with countless blood vessels covering the whites of her eyes. She felt as if countless steel needles were piercing her head. The intense pain made even this second-ranked S-level expert feel extremely uncomfortable, and she immediately knelt on the ground. Yes. I promised Blast. I would become the strongest. So. How could I possibly, and absolutely could not, lose to King? With a shriek, a massive amount of green energy erupted from within her body. Tornado forcibly pushed herself to the limit, unleashing her full telekinetic power. Since it was impossible to directly use telekinesis to twist the man into a pretzel, and it was also impossible to force him to dodge with a dense attack range. Therefore, all we need to do is concentrate all our power on one point. This immense and boundless telekinetic force, strong enough to shake the surface of an entire city, was rapidly compressed at this moment. In the blink of an eye, the vast ocean of spiritual power was compressed into a needle less than 10 centimeters long, and terrifying power spread within it. As soon as the tiny needle of spiritual energy condensed, the surrounding space immediately began to distort, clearly overwhelmed by the pressure. Sensing a slight sense of crisis rising within him, Chen Xiao's expression finally became more serious. The needle was strong enough to injure him. With a thought from the tornado, the needle arrived in front of Chen Xiao in 0.01 seconds, almost teleporting. Chen Xiao's pupils contracted, and his figure vanished from the spot as a blur, leaving only a blue streak of light moving through the air at a speed almost invisible to the naked eye. Where he had just been standing, the entire space was on the verge of collapse. The tiny needle had pierced through the stable structure of the space, triggering a spatial collapse. Don't even think about escaping. Tornado roared, and although her body became even weaker, she continued to channel power into her through the tiny needles of spiritual energy. The next second, a figure suddenly appeared behind her. A seemingly ordinary chop to the neck pierced through the already crumbling telekinetic shield and landed on the back of Tornado's neck. The transmission of spiritual energy froze at that moment. Tornado's eyes rolled back, and she collapsed to the ground with a thud, motionless. Having lost its source of power, even the tiny needle of spiritual energy, which contained immense power, was powerless to continue its pursuit, slowly dissipating into specks of green light in the air. This battle ultimately ended with Chen Xiao's easy victory. From beginning to end, Chen Xiao allowed Tornado to attack him at will. He only had to make 2 moves before Tornado was exhausted and unconscious. He reached out and picked up the petite Tornado, yawning somewhat boredly. I thought it would be a thrilling battle, but I didn't expect this little girl to be so weak. The white steam on his body slowly dissipated. Chen Xiao exited the shock gate state, grabbed Tornado, and flew into the sky, heading towards the Hero Association. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have completed option 1. Hearing the system notification that he had completed his selection, Chen Xiao shook his head helplessly. If nothing unexpected happens, I can be considered one of the top fighters in the One Punch Man world. Tornado was already one of the strongest fighters besides those hooks, but she was completely powerless against him and was almost instantly killed. With the physique of the Death Gate and the additional 8 gates formation, Chen Xiao has become a qualified numerical monster. It has absolutely no mechanics, it's just pure, powerful stats, exactly like that of a certain bald, overpowered Demon King. In the end, they still couldn't figure out Night Kai. There was absolutely no chance to test it, since just one powerful punch almost killed Tornado. If Nightbringer were to kick it, Tornado would probably be turned into a bloody mist on the spot. High in the sky, a biting wind whipped at Chen Xiao's face as he clutched the unconscious Tornado in his hand. He was contemplating a crucial question, a question that could potentially determine his life or death. Should we go and test Saitama's skill strength? Meanwhile, the Hero Association. Mr. Saitama, the examination venue and equipment are ready. You may begin. Saitama, who had already been showing off several plates of fruit, instinctively shuddered when he heard the staff members shout, and a bead of cold sweat rolled down his forehead. He breathed a huge sigh of relief when he learned that he was only being asked to take an exam. I almost thought these fruits cost money, it was terrifying. These fruits didn't look cheap, and I've already eaten several large plates of them. If I had to pay for them, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to pay them back even if I saved every penny for months. Here I am. Saitama responded, quickly stuffed another sun-dried green grape into his mouth, and hurriedly ran out of the lounge. Chapter 11. Examination Venue. Saitama stood on the synthetic track, having removed his yellow bodysuit, revealing a muscular physique that appeared to be sculpted. The two staff members responsible for recording stood at the finish line of the track and shouted loudly. The first test, a 3-kilometer sprint, now begin. Before the word beginning could even be uttered, the staff felt a gust of wind rush past their ears, followed by a deafening roar. They turned around in surprise, only to see Saitama already standing at the finish line, twisting his neck somewhat boredly. On the synthetic track, the indented human-shaped footprints indicate that Saitama's speed is achieved simply by utilizing reaction force for sprinting, which is why he can reach such a high speed. That's monstrous power. The staff member swallowed hard. No wonder this bald man could take the exam alone, he really was terrifyingly strong. Not long after, the second exam began. Shot put. Boom. With a deafening clang of metal clashing, the steel ceiling of the entire examination venue was blasted open, leaving a crater several meters in diameter. Meanwhile, the shot put in Saitama's hand, already engulfed in dazzling flames, shot into space, and before the impact dissipated, it would only fly into the brilliant starry sky. 100-meter shuttle run. The staff felt a blur before their eyes, and Saitama had already crossed the finish line hundreds of times in a mere 0.1 seconds. Weightlifting. Saitama effortlessly lifted several tons of dumbbells without even realizing it, and even casually played with them in his hands, seemingly out of boredom. Punching power. With a light, effortless punch, the entire punching machine flew backward more than 10 meters before crashing heavily into a wall in the distance. Whack-a-mole. There were 10 holes in front of it. The gopher toy's head had just peeked out of one of the holes when a red hammer came crashing down from the sky and smashed the gopher toy's head to pieces. After completing the entire test, Saitama put his yellow bodysuit back on and returned to the lounge to show off the free snacks and drinks. Looking at the data on the checklist, the two staff members responsible for recording the data exchanged glances, their hands trembling involuntarily. This guy's physical abilities are simply monstrous. Does this mean a new S-tier hero is coming? The Hero Association's monitoring room. A staff member in a white coat nervously pushed open the door, handed a data sheet to Sich, who was sitting in a chair, and said excitedly. This is Mr. King's companion, Saitama. His performance in the physical fitness test is simply inhuman. He's like a Superman. Looking at the data, which was absolutely off the charts, Six's eyes widened, and he couldn't help but recall what Chen Xiao had said earlier. I can guarantee that this person's strength is no less than mine. Sich was initially skeptical of this statement. After all, King was the strongest man on earth, how could a seemingly weak bald man easily rival King? But now, looking at Saitama's body, which seemed to house a god, Sich's doubts began to waver. Even if Mr. King's statement was somewhat exaggerated, Saitama definitely has an S-class level of skill. Next, we'll see how the written test goes. With such outstanding physical fitness test scores, as long as one achieves a decent score on the written test, there is a chance to be directly promoted to S level. As the exam bell rang, Saitama's expression changed slightly, and a sense of fear from the depths of his soul flashed through his mind. After all, before becoming a hero out of pure interest, Saitama had studied for over a decade and was practically paranoid about the exam bell. Seeing that the questions on the test paper were basically consistent with what King had said, a barely perceptible smile of satisfaction appeared on his minimalist face. I never expected it to be the same thing that King said. Upon seeing the challenging questions on the exam paper, Saitama glanced at them and almost filled in all the same answers. One punch to smash. In his view, these questions on the exam paper could basically be summed up by a single punch. Just as he was about to put pen to paper, he suddenly recalled what Chen Xiao had said earlier. You need to try changing your perspective and looking at the problem from the viewpoint of the weaker party. From the perspective of the weak. Saitama closed his eyes and began to recall his past self. Although I was very weak back then, I lived a very fulfilling life every day, exercising, eating bananas, and going out to fight monsters. He fights monsters stronger than himself, and even though he gets beaten up and covered in blood, he still shouts and rushes forward to save the people. With this thought in mind, Saitama opened his eyes, the tip of his pen leaving a scratching sound and ink marks on the exam paper. Just as Saitama entered the examination room to take the test, the staff in the monitoring room stood up excitedly, and even Sich came over. Report. The ultra-high energy reaction at Suburban 302 has disappeared. The battle between Miss Tornado and Mr. King has come to a conclusion. Upon hearing this, Sich's heart clenched. The energy reaction that the two of them had just unleashed was practically a massive dragon-level disaster. If it had struck a city, the entire city would have been instantly destroyed. What puzzled Sicko was that fights between strong opponents of this caliber usually lasted a long time, so why was it over in just 5 minutes? Just then, the door to the control room opened. Chen Xiao carried the unconscious Tornado in one hand, his body barely bearing any injuries. His calm voice echoed in the empty control room. Please take Tornado to get her treated. You can handle the calming her down afterwards. Sich immediately sent a communication, and in less than 2 minutes, more than a dozen medical staff rushed over with a stretcher and carried the unconscious Tornado away. Only after watching the Tornado being carried away around a distant corner and disappear from sight did Sich touch his forehead, realizing that he was already covered in sweat. Looking at that imposing and domineering face again, which I had finally gotten used to, now evoked a sense of awe and fear in me, a feeling I now felt towards the powerful. Able to defeat Tornado of Terror within 5 minutes, taking down the Hero Association's ace. Mr. King. Who exactly are you? Suddenly, as if realizing something, Sich's pupils contracted sharply. He remembered after Chen Xiao entered, he hadn't heard the Emperor engine signaling the start of battle. In other words, even after defeating Tornado, the second-ranked S-class enemy, Mr. King hadn't even entered battle mode yet? Chapter 12. 20 minutes later. The door to the lounge was pushed open, and Chen Xiao, who was inside showing off her snacks, drinks, and free fruit, jumped in fright and quickly hid the leftover snacks and drinks. King's persona can't be ruined. Upon closer inspection, a large, reflective bald head came into view. Oh, it's Saitama. Oh, it's all right then. He swallowed the potato chip and mumbled somewhat unclearly. How did the exam go? Saitama confidently stated, I feel great this time, even better than when I took the National Civil Service exam. I think I've got this in the bag. For some reason, Chen Xiao felt something was off when he heard Saitama so confident about his achievements. Are you setting a goal here? According to Siki, since Saitama is taking the exam alone this time, the results will be available within 10 minutes, and he can wait in the lounge for a while. After the door closed, the two devoured the free snacks, drinks, and fruit in a frenzy. In Saitama's words, the other party knew they were hungry and specially brought them so much delicious food that they didn't have to pay for it. If they didn't eat it, they would be trampling on the other party's kindness. As for Chen Xiao, he sees the Hero Association as a home. I'm at home now, so I can do whatever I want, right? About 10 minutes later, a polite knock came at the door. Thump, thump, thump. Saitama and Chen Xiao exchanged a glance. Their hands moved like afterimages in the air as they quickly threw the mountain of trash into a large trash can. After receiving permission, the staff member entered somewhat nervously and respectfully handed Chen Xiao a file folder. These are Saitama's test results. Please take a close look. After saying that, the staff member turned and ran out of the break room without hesitation, closing the door behind him. There's no way around it, the aura of the strongest man on earth, King, is just too overwhelming. Just seeing that face makes you feel suffocated. Chen Xiao handed the file folder to Saitama, letting him open it himself. Saitama looked at the file in his hand, which concerned whether he could become a super dog tycoon with an annual salary of several million yen and whether he could eat delicious high-end beef every day. This strongest being, who could instantly kill dragon-level monsters without any emotional fluctuation, was now so nervous that his hands were trembling slightly. He took a breath, and the minimalist style instantly transformed into a sharp, angular face. He carefully tore open the file folder and pulled out a report card. Name, Saitama. Gender, male. Scores, perfect score in physical fitness test, 48 points in academic test. Performance evaluation, his physical abilities far exceed human limits, and his cultural knowledge reveals a sincere heroic heart and unwavering, kind, and noble heroic character. Furthermore, with the guarantee of the strongest man on earth, King, Mr. Saitama is hereby rated as S-Class, 17th place. Holy crap, I really became an S-rank. Saitama finally couldn't hold back and blurted out a curse that was barely out of his mouth, his eyes brimming with undisguised joy. He could already imagine the wonderful life he would lead every day, where he could freely buy comic books and enjoy premium beef and sashimi. Seeing Saitama's excitement, Chen Xiao smiled. This can be seen as making up for some regrets in the original work. As the strongest being, the bald demon king should have been an S-class character from the beginning, instead of being misunderstood and starting from the last C-class character. In a simple little house, the hot pot was steaming, and the brightly colored, clearly textured beef bobbed up and down in the boiling water, accompanied by a variety of other ingredients. At Chen Xiao's request, the Hero Association decided to prepay Saitama's salary for 1 month, instantly turning the bald demon king from a pauper into a millionaire. To celebrate receiving such a huge sum of money and landing a high-paying job, Saitama went all out and bought a whole pot of hot pot ingredients. Staring at the premium beef bobbing in the hot pot, about to reach its perfect cooking time, Chen Xiao and Qi Yu exchanged glances, both seeing determination in each other's eyes. 8 gates formation 7th gate of shock open. White steam slowly dissipated from his body, and a pale blue light began to envelop Chen Xiao, instantly boosting his aura several times over. Seeing Chen Xiao become serious, Saitama's eyes sharpened, and he gripped his chopsticks tightly. He absolutely refused to let Chen Xiao win this battle to protect beef. Seriously picking up food. 7 seconds later, although the two figures appeared to be motionless, they were actually moving so fast that they were imperceptible to the naked eye. In a mere fraction of a second, Chen Xiao and Saitama's chopsticks clashed hundreds of times in mid-air, each time pushing the other away just as they were about to pick up some beef. Finally, Saitama's chopsticks were about to reach the largest piece of beef, his eyes revealing uncontainable joy. The next second, Chen Xiao seized the opportunity, pushed Saitama's chopsticks aside again, and grabbed the largest piece of beef with lightning speed. Gah! A crisp cracking sound rang out, and Chen Xiao froze. The chopsticks in his hand suddenly shattered into 2 pieces with a tiny crack appearing, and the beef he was holding in mid-air fell to the ground. With lightning speed, Saitama caught the piece of beef that was about to fall to the ground and quickly scooped up 3/4 of the beef from the hot pot into his own bowl. Seeing his bowl piled high with premium beef, Saitama smiled triumphantly and raised an eyebrow at Chen Xiao. Eat up, king. I even saved you a quarter, this stuff gets tough if you soak it too long. Chen Xiao. It seems that even with the gate of shock open, there is still an insurmountable gap between me and the bald demon king in his normal state. Even something as small as snatching beef shows that I was completely outmatched in both speed and strength. However, Chen Xiao's gaze fell on the suitcase he had just brought from home, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. Next, it's time for me to crush the bald demon king. Watching Saitama savoring the premium beef, Chen Xiao smiled and patted the box beside him. Saitama, would you like to play a fighting game? Here's the latest collection of controllers and games. Chapter 13. Saitama slowly set down the bowl of premium beef in his hand, his gaze falling on the box beside him. Fighting games? King, do you play fighting games too? Chen Xiao still had a smiling expression, and didn't seem to have any bad intentions at all. Yeah, I also play fighting games, but I'm probably a little bad at them, so I might not be able to beat you. Upon hearing this, Saitama's eyes lit up, and he devoured the beef in a few bites. He turned off the hot pot, clenched his fist with renewed vigor, and exclaimed. That's perfect! I'm a fighting game master, a true fighting game expert. Let me teach you what real fighting game skills are all about. In his daily battles, Saitama feels incredibly empty because he is too powerful, and he always longs for an opponent with whom he can fight to his heart's content. In fighting games, Saitama wants to both practice against strong players and beat up weak players to feel a sense of presence. Hearing Saitama's spirited shouts, Chen Xiao's lips twitched, and he almost couldn't help but laugh out loud. No. I can't laugh yet. I need to hold it in a little longer. 5 minutes later. The two sat in front of the game console, the screen displaying the interface of a popular fighting game. Saitama chose the character of a muscle behemoth, whose enormous size and spiked mace made him look extremely fierce. Chen Xiao, however, chose a petite and delicate little girl as his character, with two small bells hanging from the ends of her twin ponytails, her petite figure posing in a boxing stance. Seeing such a huge difference in size, Saitama gripped the game console tightly, a confident and arrogant expression on his face. King, you're not very good at picking characters. My character looks way stronger than yours, I'll annihilate you in a few moves. The battle began, and Saitama kept tapping the attack button, completely unaware of how to execute combos, his mind solely focused on attacking. His muscular behemoth character kept swinging its spiked club, but the little girl opposite him dodged every attack with skillful blocking and dodging. When they reached the corner, Chen Xiao's eyes narrowed, and he rapidly tapped the controller with 2 fingers, instantly pressing most of the buttons. In the game, the little girl leaps into the air and unleashes a precise combo of control moves, leaving the muscular behemoth completely immobilized and rendered helpless before he is locked down and killed. Saitama. He was completely dumbfounded, utterly unable to believe how he could have been instantly killed by someone at full health. Chen Xiao turned his head with a smile, still want to fight. Saitama was clearly unconvinced, and slammed his hand on the ground in displeasure, his eyes extremely serious. Of course I'll fight again. That was just a lucky break. Watch me crush you in the second round. Round 2. Round 3. Round 35. Seeing the blood-red KO on the screen, a vein bulged on Saitama's smooth forehead, and his entire body turned red, clearly indicating that he was overwhelmed by anger and blood rushing to his head. Again. Saitama screamed, almost on the verge of collapse, his breathing heavy as he stared intently at the screen. Chen Xiao remained relaxed, watching Saitama's utterly devastated expression. He reluctantly released one hand, leaving only one finger on the controller. Okay, I'll use just one finger. If you can beat me, I'll buy you all the beef for the next month. Real. Saitama, who had lost his mind from being beaten up so many times, was instantly filled with energy again, his eyes shining as he grabbed the controller. King, you're way too arrogant. You think you can beat me to a pulp with just one finger? Round 75. Watching his muscular physique once again being kicked to death by a little girl, Saitama knelt on the ground in resentment, letting out a wail only a protagonist in a shonen manga could utter. Chen Xiao yawned, grabbed the coke next to him, took 2 gulps, and shook his right hand. I've been pressing with just one finger for a while now, and it's gotten a little sore. Round 108. I'm not playing anymore. Saitama, his face ashen, threw down the controller and collapsed to the ground with a look of utter despair. I've never won a single game. Even though Chen Xiao only used one finger, he still managed to beat Saitama to the point of despair, and he didn't want to continue playing at all. Chen Xiao himself was also starting to lose his composure. Although he knew Saitama was bad at games when he read the original work, he didn't expect him to be this bad. Even if you're bad at the game, it's okay, but why are you so fixated on the punch button while completely ignoring the kick and dodge/block buttons? Saitama became somewhat withdrawn, refusing to even read his favorite comic books, and instead lay on the sofa and turned on the TV. Recently, a large number of mosquitoes have appeared in Z City, causing many animals in the suburbs to become mummified, which has constituted a disaster. Residents are advised to minimize outdoor activities in the near future. Mosquito. Just as Saitama was idly preparing to flip to the next program, he suddenly heard a faint buzzing sound in his ear. In less than 2 seconds, the buzzing grew louder and louder. He turned his head and saw that a mosquito had already stuck to his hand, trying to pierce his skin with its proboscis to suck blood. Without the slightest hesitation, Saitama slapped his own arm hard, and an invisible wave of energy erupted with tremendous force. Just when he thought the mosquito was dead, the familiar buzzing sound rang out, and the mosquito slowly flew out from between his fingers. Under Saitama's gaze, a mosquito slowly landed on his face, preparing to suck his blood once more. Saitama. Having already been thrashed 108 times, Saitama couldn't even swat a mosquito. His face instantly contorted with grotesque, serpentine veins, his frustration and anger reaching their peak. He slapped himself hard across the face, leaving a bright red handprint, and his eyes turned incredibly fierce. The next second, the mosquito wobbled out from between the fingers again, its buzzing sound like a mocking taunt. Depend on. Saitama's figure instantly transformed into a blur and disappeared from the spot. His speed was so fast that he almost created several afterimage clones, frantically swatting at the mosquito that kept flying and circling around him. However, after all that effort, the mosquito still couldn't be hit. It flapped its wings and flew away towards the balcony, making an annoying buzzing sound. Don't run away, UBD. Where's my insecticide? Seeing Saitama's pained expression, Chen Xiao calmly took a sip of cola and smacked his lips. It seems the plot has moved forward once again. The timeline just doesn't seem quite right, does it? Chapter 14. Chen Xiao felt that something was off. According to the original timeline, after the vaccine man, the story should have moved on to the Titan's younger brother. Why did it fast forward to the appearance of the budget-conscious Genos? Well, maybe it's because I traveled through time that the timeline has changed a bit. In the blink of an eye, Saitama had already grabbed the insecticide and rushed out, heading straight for the mosquito that had flown away. Chen Xiao scratched his head, casually placed the cola on the ground, and disappeared in a flash. He decided to go and meet the legendary funding warrior, and also to check out the mosquito girl who was widely recognized by netizens as charming. Z City Street District. The loudspeaker continued to emit a piercing alarm, repeating it over and over again. A super-level disaster has struck Z City, affecting a vast area. All citizens are urged to evacuate their neighborhoods immediately. Repeated twice. The entire neighborhood was almost deserted. People didn't even have time to close their shops. Out of concern for their own lives, they chose to flee with the crowd. On the side of the road, 2 young men who looked like hooligans were dragging huge sacks down the street. One of the young men, wearing a hat, eagerly opened the bag and beamed with joy upon seeing the various valuables inside. Brother! We've struck it rich this time. Nobody's bothering with the stuff in these shops anymore. We've made so much gold, we're set for life. The blonde-haired youth, referred to as Big Brother, flicked his shiny blonde hair, which shone in the sunlight, and couldn't stop smiling. Ha ha ha, those guys who ran away are such idiots. What disaster! We two brothers have made a killing this time. Hurry up, don't let anyone find out. Taking advantage of the demon-level disaster and the subsequent evacuation of all residents, these two thugs secretly returned to the neighborhood and began their free shopping scheme. Just then, a mosquito landed on blonde hair's face, making a piercing buzzing sound. The blonde-haired guy slapped the mosquito dead and clicked his tongue in annoyance. Why are there so many mosquitoes today? I've killed over a dozen already. When will this end? Let's get out of here. As soon as he finished speaking, the blonde-haired man noticed that the young man in the hat was motionless, staring blankly at the sky. Hey! Are you coming or not? Do you want to get arrested by the police? The young man in the hat ignored the blonde-haired man's reprimand, his eyes filled with terror. He took 2 shaky steps back, his voice trembling with fear. Big brother, look at the sky. There are so many mosquitoes. Upon hearing this, the blonde-haired man clicked his tongue in annoyance, looked up at the sky, and continued cursing. Look at your cowardice, what's there to be afraid of with a few mosquitoes? The sound gradually faded, and the blonde-haired man was completely stunned. His eyes glazed over as he stared blankly at the sky, muttering to himself. What is this? What is this thing? Above the sky, millions of mosquitoes formed a black wave, sweeping in at incredible speed with a piercing buzz. The blonde-haired man and the young man in the hat realized what had happened and abandoned all the treasure they had just stolen, frantically fleeing into the distance. However, how could they possibly outrun so many mosquitoes? A black tide of countless mosquitoes enveloped them completely. Its sharp mouth parts pierced the skin, greedily sucking the blood within, causing the skin surface to visibly dry out. The blonde-haired man and the young man in the hat struggled incessantly, but were swallowed up by the swarm of mosquitoes in just a few seconds. The black mist dissipated, the mosquitoes turned pale red, and flew back into the sky, leaving only 2 shriveled corpses at the scene. High in the sky, amidst a massive swarm of mosquitoes, a strangely shaped humanoid creature was slowly flying in the center. This humanoid creature has a pair of mosquito forelimbs that are over a meter long, and its entire body is covered with fine hairs, with mosquito limbs adorning its lower body. The upper body takes on a human form, with a slender, girlish figure and a pure, captivating face, while the head is adorned with mosquito-shaped mouthparts, giving the appearance of both allure and danger. The mosquito woman raised her hand and summoned the swarm of blood-sucking mosquitoes, which had turned a pale reddish color, and absorbed all the blood they had plundered. She licked her lips, which seemed to become even redder, and her smile grew increasingly arrogant. That's it. Keep plundering more blood. You have no chance. A cold voice sounded from behind, and Mosquito Woman's pupils suddenly contracted as she shifted her gaze to what was behind her. When she turned her head, all she saw was a black mechanical arm and a cannon barrel that was constantly rotating in its palm. Boom! 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 The orange energy cannon, brimming with intense heat, rapidly enlarged in her vision. Without the slightest hesitation, the mosquito girl flapped her wings and escaped the attack range. But the swarm of mosquitoes behind her wasn't so lucky. The violent incineration cannon wiped out a large swarm of mosquitoes behind her, turning millions of them into ashes in that instant. Seeing the air distorted by the intense heat, the mosquito woman, who had flown far away, was filled with shock and anger, her gaze fixed intently on the newcomer. What are you? Suddenly, Mosquito Girl froze, unable to feel the blood flowing in the man in front of her. No blood. Could this guy not be human? Mosquito Girl, who had seen and experienced much at the House of Evolution, immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be that? The Mosquito Woman, the demon-level disaster that ravaged Z City and caused considerable casualties, I will wipe you out today. The cold voice interrupted Mosquito Woman's thoughts. She turned her gaze back to the person in front of her, scrutinizing everything about him. The man standing in front of me was about 1.7 meters tall, with neat short blonde hair and a simple white shirt, which couldn't hide his metallic body. The cyborg, made entirely of metal, raised its right hand, and violent energy continuously gathered in the muzzle of its palm. Its golden mechanical eyes flashed with a terrifying sharpness. Genos, the warrior of ample funds, has arrived. Chapter 15. Facing the imposing Genos, Mosquito Girl crossed her arms and gave a disdainful snort. You're just a mere robot, yet you dare to spout such nonsense. Since we can't suck your blood, we'll just tear you apart. Minions, charge! With Mosquito Girl's command, a swarm of mosquitoes swept in from behind, almost instantly surrounding Genos. Seeing Genos trapped in the encirclement, she flapped her wings and prepared to turn and leave. In Mosquito Woman's view, her numerous subordinates were more than enough to dismantle this human-looking robot into countless parts. The mechanical eye, which functions like a human pupil, rotates continuously, analyzing everything it sees. Mosquitoes, 655,865 currently within sight, number outside sight unknown. Can be dealt with using the 38% kinetic energy incinerator. Its sharp mouth parts were sharp enough to pierce human skin, but when they landed on this steel body, they didn't even cause a spark before they broke off on their own. Genos raised his hand, and the incineration cannon he had been charging up for a long time burst forth in an instant, the violent crimson flames engulfing the black waves. Sensing the sudden increase in energy fluctuations, Mosquito Girl turned her head in surprise and retreated dozens of meters backward. As a glimmer of fire appeared in his sight, Genos stared coldly at the humanoid creature before him, his golden hair, fluttering in the flames, becoming even more dazzling. Without exchanging another word with Mosquito Girl, Genos extended two pipe devices from behind his arm, unleashing a fierce burst of flames. Under the powerful impact, Genos appeared in front of Mosquito Girl in a teleportation-like manner. His mechanical eye flashed with a cold light in the air, and the cannon in his palm was already aimed at her body. The blue core on its chest continuously supplies energy, and the entire area has reached 78% power. Incineration cannon. Mosquito Girl's expression changed slightly, and she quickly tried to block, but her entire body was engulfed by the orange beam of light. As the energy fluctuations slowly dissipated, her forelimbs, which she had used to defend herself, had turned charred black, and her whole body emitted a burnt smell. Genos, firmly believing in the principle of striking while the iron is hot, pressed his advantage. The jet propulsion system behind him activated again, and the ground beneath his feet shattered into spider-web-like cracks. Using the powerful recoil, he swiftly reached the Mosquito Woman's left side, his heavy punch leaving a sharp trail in the air as it headed straight for her face. With the keen senses of a mosquito, she detected the danger in advance and slashed at Genos's head with her sharp, knife-like forelegs. In the next instant, accompanied by the sudden roar of machinery, Genos twisted and changed the mechanical joints on his body, allowing him to move behind Mosquito Girl in a way that no human could do. Continuous machine punches. With another shift in his arm joints, Genos swung his fists at incredible speed, unleashing a barrage of punches that rained down from the sky. Mosquito Girl had no time to dodge and was hit by dozens of heavy punches in succession, with fragments of her armor flying through the air. She cried out in pain, and her whole body flew backward like a cannonball, crashing directly into the black mist above. Trying to hide in a swarm of mosquitoes to escape? How foolish! Genos snorted coldly, brought his hands together, and simultaneously began to charge up the cannons in his palms, while the frequency of energy transmission from his core in his chest suddenly increased. High-power incineration cannon. An even larger beam of light, carrying a dazzling brilliance, shot out, leaving behind only violent energy fluctuations in its wake, and slammed into the swarm of mosquitoes with unparalleled scorching heat. In an instant, a dense buzzing and the sound of burning filled the air, and countless charred mosquitoes fell rapidly like raindrops, carpeting the ground with black smoke. Stepping on it, a crackling sound echoed in my ears. Genos scanned his surroundings, noticing that there were no more figures among the scorched mosquitoes. Were they completely annihilated by the high-powered incineration cannon? Relieved that no signs of life were detected, Genos prepared to retract his arm, which was still charging up the incineration cannon. The next second, as the sound of metal clashing against metal rang in his ears, Genos's mechanical pupils involuntarily contracted, and intense energy fluctuations quickly appeared in his detection. What? The energy level has increased by such a huge amount. Half of the mechanical arm flew into the air and slammed heavily onto the ground. Genos stared at his half-severed arm, then turned his gaze to the person in front of him. To be precise, it is some kind of creature similar to humans. She is still the mosquito woman, but her appearance has now deviated greatly from that of a human. The once fair and translucent skin has turned deep red, with the mosquito's limbs occupying more of the area, and the human component becoming increasingly scarce. Genos analyzed the opponent's energy fluctuations and found that they had increased by at least 2 times compared to before, with significant improvements in both speed and power. To be able to sever my arm before I've even finished my exploration, this is troublesome. Genos wasn't a fool, he immediately realized that he was no match for the guy in front of him. But escape is impossible now, as the opponent is far faster than him. So, the only option left is to fight to the death. With this thought in mind, Genos's eyes hardened. He raised his only remaining arm, and the incinerator in his palm quickly charged up. Mosquito Girl looked at her red skin and the immense power flowing continuously within her body, and a smile curled at the corner of her lips. Seeing that the cyborg in front of her still wanted to put up a fight, she couldn't help but laugh. What an idiot! You think you've destroyed my mosquito swarm, but little do you know they were just bait. While you were still attacking the swarms of mosquitoes I left in the city, I had already gathered all the mosquitoes that were sucking blood in the suburbs back to me, making them contribute the blood they had collected, which facilitated my great evolution. And you will be the first person to die beneath my perfect body. Hearing Mosquito Girl's arrogant words, Genos's eyes grew cold. He unleashed the full power of his core energy, intending to unleash another super-powerful incineration cannon. However, he only felt a blur before his eyes, and the mosquito woman stuck out her tongue and licked the sharp part of her forelimbs, appearing behind him without him even noticing. The last mechanical arm was severed in 2, and a jet device was spliced from Genos's knee, unleashing a powerful kick straight at Mosquito Girl's face. Another sharp mark appeared, and Genos froze. The leg he used to launch the attack was instantly severed into several pieces. Chapter 16. What? Genos never expected that the monster in front of him would grow to such a terrifying level in an instant. Seeing that the cyborg who had just been talking about hunting her was now crippled, Mosquito Girl's confidence soared. She covered her mouth and laughed loudly, her scarlet eyes filled with disdain and mockery. What? Weren't you just saying you were going to hunt me? How are you going to hunt me lying on the ground? Did I give you permission to lie down? Mosquito Girl kicked Genos in the stomach, sending him flying into the air. Genos tried to activate his jet propulsion system in midair to stabilize himself, but it was too late. Mosquito Girl flapped her wings rapidly and arrived in front of Genos, who was flipping in the air, with lightning speed. Her sharp forelimbs suddenly slashed down. As the air was sliced through, accompanied by the sound of parts shattering against metal, a huge gash was suddenly torn open in Genos's waist, revealing the intricate mechanical components inside. Ha 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 ha! Intoxicating power! Die! Crimson streaks of light spread through the air, and Genos's figure was like a small boat on the sea, constantly being attacked and tossed about. When he landed again, less than half of his body remained, his limbs had been chopped off, and only his head was still attached to his mangled body. Even his mechanical eyes gradually dimmed, and Genos clearly realized that he could no longer defeat the monster in front of him. It seems this is the only trick left. His gaze fell on the blue core on his chest, and he made a decision in his heart. Mosquito Girl landed lightly, stepping on Genos's head with one foot, her tone playful. Don't worry, to die at my hands after my evolution is a kind of honor for you. You won't be the last. I'm sorry, Doctor. I will eliminate evil at all costs. Genos roared inwardly and activated his core without hesitation. A destructive energy rapidly condensed within the tattered mechanical body. The sense of danger emanating from the insects caused the once arrogant mosquito woman's pupils to contract instantly, and she instinctively wanted to retreat. Oh no! This guy's about to make a last-ditch effort. Just as Genos was about to explode, a series of footsteps sounded from the distant road, accompanied by a voice. Stop right there! You wretched mosquito! I'll spray you to death today! He immediately stopped his self-destruction, raised his shattered face in a daze, and stared at the source of the sound ahead. On a scorched road, a bald man in pajamas is angrily chasing after a mosquito that is flying erratically ahead, while holding a sprayer of insecticide in his hand. To the left of the bald man, a tall, blonde man with a menacing face floated in mid-air, silently following behind. Chen Xiao's gaze fell on Genos, who was lying on the ground, and then he looked at the mosquito girl, who was covered in blood. He immediately knew how far things had progressed. It seems Mosquito Girl has successfully absorbed blood and evolved, turning the newly introduced budget warrior into a budget-in-debt warrior. Genos's mechanical eye quickly scanned the two who had suddenly appeared, and data surfaced in his mind. I don't recognize the bald man in front of me, and his aura is very weak, so he seems to be just an ordinary person. The man next to me looks familiar. Wait a minute. This guy is actually S-rank 7th, the strongest man on Earth, King. A flame of hope ignited in Genos's heart. Although he didn't know exactly how strong the S-class heroes were, he could easily find a lot of information about King's legendary achievements online. Although he himself couldn't defeat this monster, if the strongest being on Earth, King, were to intervene, there might be a chance to defeat it. Mosquito Girl was also startled by the sudden appearance of the two people and immediately went into alert mode, sensing their presence. The bald man is weak, but the blonde man next to him is incredibly strong. Absolutely terrifyingly strong. So what? I am a supreme being who can continuously evolve by absorbing blood and will eventually become the master of the world. How could I possibly be intimidated by mere humans? Just as Mosquito Girl was about to make her move, she found that her limbs felt as heavy as if they were filled with lead, and they were even trembling incessantly. What happened? What's going on? Upon sensing it for a moment, she was immediately stunned. His own body trembled uncontrollably from the fear of the blonde man before him, as if every cell in his body was radiating terror. Enough! Mosquito Girl shrieked, forcibly suppressing all the fear in her heart. The ground beneath her feet shattered under the powerful force, and she transformed into a streak of blood-red light, rushing forward at high speed. Seeing this, Chen Xiao silently retreated behind Saitama. This mosquito woman is someone who brings bad luck to anyone who tries to stab her. If you just smash this guy to pieces, you'll automatically gain a clingy, stubborn cyborg who won't leave unless he agrees to become your apprentice. Chen Xiao didn't want to be entangled with that pervert Genos. The thought of having people recording his every word and action wherever he went was terrifying. It's best to leave this to Saitama, since he was Genos's teacher in the original story, albeit under duress. However, something strange happened. Mosquito Girl completely ignored Saitama, who was still chasing mosquitoes, and charged straight at Chen Xiao. In her mind, the cyborg with some strength was already useless, and the lifeless bald man was nothing to fear. The only person he needed to eliminate was that blonde man who instilled such intense pressure and fear in him. Once I can get rid of this guy, I can live a carefree life and climb to the top of the world by constantly sucking blood. Mosquito Girl concentrated all her strength into this attack, and the blood stored in her blood bag burned at that moment, greatly increasing her attack power once again. The crimson light lingered in the air, carrying a strong smell of blood. Mosquito Girl rushed in front of Chen Xiao, her eyes filled with excitement. Die, humans! Smack! Chen Xiao casually slapped out, and the crimson light instantly dissipated. Mosquito Girl flew away like a cannonball, crashing directly into a building not far away, blasting the entire floor into a bloody mess. I was almost splattered with blood, luckily I was quick enough. Chen Xiao's performance was nothing like he had dealt with a monster at the peak of the ghost realm, it was more like he had swatted a mosquito covered in blood, afraid of getting any on his clothes. Genos. That's strong. Chapter 17. Genos's worldview was deeply shaken at this moment. He knew King was very strong, after all, the database would be updated with more of his legendary achievements every now and then. But only by experiencing it firsthand can one truly grasp the terror of this man. Facing the terrifying monster that they couldn't defeat even with their best efforts, and that could only be instantly killed even with their full strength, they were utterly helpless in front of this man. Did King not even consider Mosquito Girl a rival from the very beginning? I'll hit you. A powerful voice rang out, and Saitama's gaze locked onto the
वीडियोस बनाने हैं फिल्मोरा है ना।